All right, here it is. Part 6 of the Supercharger series. Fabrication is complete. This is kind of where we got to. I know that this is a long video series, but this is a lot of work, and I just kind of wanted to share with you everything that I've been doing. In this episode, we're going to kind of go over all the finishing touches. And I know last video I said it wasn't going to be a very long video, but there was just so many little things that I had to finish up, and all these little things were just kind of nickel and diming me to get it all done. But it's done. You can see we got the tensioner, we got the belt, we got a rebuilt alternator, we got the alternator reinforcements, we finished up the adapter plate, got the fuel rails mounted, we got the fuel injectors picked out, EGR Adapter Block, we got it painted. As you can see, I chose the Ford blue color. A whole bunch of stuff in this video to kind of finish off everything. So yeah, I appreciate everybody watching, and after this video it's going to be installation on the car, but I just kind of wanted to show you everything that I did to get to this point. And yeah, here we go. I think I've got the belt tensioner all done, and this pulley is going to be smaller, but just to mock it up, I think we've got it. I'm a little bit concerned that we might not have enough tension, but as you can see, it's pulling it away from the factory tensioner, the stock tensioner, and we have good spacing with our Supercharger. And basically all I did was I made a plate. This is about a 7/16 thick plate, and I've put 3 fender washers. That's kind of the thickness that I was able to get to determine to get me in the same plane. I had the level touching this pulley, and the crank pulley. So I think all 3 of our pulleys are in the same plane. And I can just show you, and then I also had to put a little washer between the timing cover and our plate. So I just used that bolt, and you can see right here. And then I used behind this is a countersunk bolt that goes into the alternator. So I can show you the bracket. What I did is I made one out of a plexiglass first, and then I went and made one at the machine shop out of steel. But yeah, I'm happy with that. You can kind of see we were fighting the alternator. There's the pin. That's the anti-rotation pin, and we're real close to the alternator, but it does clear. So there we go. There's the tensioner. Yeah, so here's just the plate I made. You can see how I just took a plate and trimmed the corners off to clear, and I also trimmed this corner off to clear the alternator. And we've got the timing cover hole. Here's our threaded hole that's got a 3/8/16 free running helicoil in it. And then I took the 82-degree cutter and I countersunk this hole. So that's going to be for the alternator. You can see kind of through. There's the alternator, and then it goes right into the block. So right here. So I think that plate will be nice and rigid on there, you know, and that should be more than enough strong for what we're doing. So that's the tensioner. Okay, so now I want to talk about fuel injectors. So I'm trying to fit the fuel rails onto the 1993 intake manifold. So this, we'd be standing at the front of the car, and this would be in the back, and it has this crossover hose to go, you know, to the other end, and that's where the feed is. And I wanted it to cut that off because it was interfering with our intake. So all I did was use a razor and cut it very carefully, and you can see there's a barb. So I believe that this is just a press-on style fuel hose. So I have to get a different hose, just a length of more hose. But anyway, so now what I wanted to do was get different fuel injectors. The fuel injectors that come stock on the 2010 Crown Vic, I believe, are 24 pounds an hour. I'm hoping for about 100 more horsepower. The factory rating on a stock Crown Vic Police Interceptor is about 265 horse. So I want to size injectors for about 365 horsepower. We're going to be boosted, so you have to account for that. And my calculations were telling me I needed about a 36 pound an hour injector. But then I had an idea. I was like, wait a minute. Ford offered a 4.6 supercharged application on the Mustang Cobra. So I looked that up, and the 0304 Mustang Cobra SVT was a dual overhead cam, 4.6 liter, 390 horsepower engine from the factory. And I looked up those part numbers for those injectors, and those turned out to be 39 pounds an hour. So that was kind of a nice sanity check for me, that both me and the Ford engineers kind of agree. We're in the same ballpark. I'm 36, they're 39. So a Mustang Cobra SVT has probably a little bit more power than what I'm going to be doing. So plus the 3 more pounds an hour would be just a little bit added, conservative for me. So I went on eBay and I bought these. These are right here how it says 0304. Just like I thought they were. And I figured, let me buy just OEM Ford injectors. I kind of wanted to get something from the factory. Even though these are used, I only paid $200 for a set of 8 of them. And you can see there's the Ford logo and the part number. So these are 39 pound an hour injectors. And they have the same connector and same height and everything as the stock Crown Vic ones. So I just kind of wanted to show you what injectors I chose, and I'm thinking about even running. I hate to do this because I already had the fuel pump out of my car twice, but I could probably even run the Ford Mustang Cobra fuel pump. So that way I'll have a improved, higher flowing fuel system on the car. So, and they slide right in the Crown Vic fuel rail, and you can see that there's 2 like tabs, and sure enough, even on the Crown Vic fuel rail, there's those alignment marks for the 2 tabs. So really, I want to get these installed in this rail. I've already got the other passenger side rail installed out on the engine, so I just kind of wanted to show that to you. Okay, so here it is. You can see I've got the 2 rails on with the Cobra injectors, and the connectors all kind of face nice. And then on the other side, they face nice too. We're going to have to make a bracket for this tab and this tab, but you can see that the 93 intake lines up nice with one of them. So the front one on the passenger side and the rear one on the driver's side lines up. We just have to make a spacer or a stack of washers, either way. I think I'll probably make a spacer on the lathe. And then we just have to come up with something for here and something for here. I took the adapter plate off because the plate is too wide. So that's kind of what I'm working on now. I just wanted to get that kind of sorted out. Okay, so I just got back from the machine shop, and I modified the plate a little bit. I need to modify it a little bit more, but I basically just extended this relief cut so I could get access to this mounting hole. I also made a little relief cut here for access. I know this isn't permanent, but I just wanted to get the plate in here, and now the plate's back bolted to the intake, so I made a relief cut there, and I also made a little relief cut here. So if you look at the injectors, this injector isn't down far enough, and it's kind of flush with the plate. So I was thinking maybe I could mount it to the plate, but the plate is too tall, and the injectors really need to sit lower, kind of like they're doing here. You can kind of see the level of the injector is, I think what I'm gonna do is just machine this off, get rid of it, and then I'll put a tapped hole and a tapped hole, and then I'll put like a strip of of steel, or maybe like a 1/4 inch block of aluminum, and bolt that to here, and then bolt that to the block, just to hold this down. You know, I want this, you know, I don't want this to come off. There's a lot of pressure underneath these, and if that, you know, lets go, gonna have a bad fire. So, so here I'm just gonna put a spacer, and then the same thing here. I'll probably machine this. I'm thinking of just machining all, just kind of trimming this whole plate thinner. You know, just cut it all the way down about here. Just kind of cut it all the way down, and I could probably do the same thing there. You know, just make the whole plate just narrower. That was kind of my plan anyway. And then I could, you know, put a hole here, a hole here, a hole here, a hole here, and then kind of bolt this down, bolt this down, and then we'll have more access for our fuel line, and then maybe trim here a little bit more. So we just have to run a new fuel line. So that's kind of where I'm at with the fuel injectors. I just wanted to show you the EGR adapter block I've been talking about. So here it is. It's just made out of a 1-inch block of aluminum, and I made the drawing for it. Here it is here. I measured the width of, you know, the EGR valve, you know, which would have been in the casting, you know. I measured that width to be 2.64, pretty much exactly. So I just made a square 2.64 1-inch thick block, and then I drilled 2 5/16 holes, 1.692 inches apart from each other, and then I countersunk with a 1/2 inch end mill, 350 deep. And then I took the metric. These are same thread as the intake manifold and the harmonic balancer, M8 by 1.25, and also the same bolt that's holding on the alternator that we had to make for the tensioner. So those are all the same thread. And I just had to put those in a lathe and kiss the ODs because they were a little bit bigger than a 1/2 inch, and I couldn't really find a end mill I was happy with. And then 90 degrees away, I drilled and tapped for 5/16 18 STI. So that's just a square adapter block to put the EGR. Oh, and that's a 9/16 hole in the middle, right? I think that's 9/16. 5625, I think, is 9/16. Anyway, so that's the adapter block. So now it'll be back. It'll be on the engine like this, and it'll be back to horizontal instead of vertical. Just wanted to give you a little bit of an update. So I'm preparing for final assembly. So I disassembled the supercharger and sandblasted the snout, the housing, and the throttle body. So the snout I totally disassembled. There's a few videos online on how to do it, but you can see I totally disassembled it. And I want to go and redo and kind of touch up my welds, because they were bad, and they were dirty. So I want to, now that it's nice and clean, I'm going to go in there with my carbide burr, grind all that out, and kind of touch up the welds again. The supercharger housing, what I want to do is I want to change the bearings. So the bearings, I have a new set, and I need to get those out. So what I did, kind of like I was talking about maybe in part 1, was those holes down there from the factory are not threaded, but they're a little bit larger than the necessary tap drill for a 5/16 24, but I was still able to get 5/16 24 threads in there. So then I took a 5/16 24 bolt and I drilled it all the way down the middle, and then I faced the end off just a little bit, and then I tapped it for a 1/4 28, which is a number 3 drill. And then I got a 1/4 28 grease fitting. So all I'm going to do is thread the grease fitting into the bolt, thread the bolt into the hole, and then you pump grease in there, and the bearings pop out. And then the throttle body, I just kind of cleaned it up a little bit more. Doesn't look so ugly. And then these 2 plates, I'll show you later, but I had to make these 2 plates. That's a 3-inch bore, and I made the plates to be the same bolt pattern as our throttle body. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. So let me try and get those bearings out, and then I want to kind of at least get these in primer. You know, I want to get them painted, and I want to at least get them in primer tonight. All right, so I got the bolt on the right grease fitting, sorry, the right bearing. So let's see if this works. Maybe I can put the camera right in there. And then I'm going to hook up my grease gun. See if I got enough grease. Here we go. Oh, getting some resistance. There she is. That's one. Made a little bit of a mess, but that's how you take the bearing out of the supercharger. Yeah. All right, let's do the other one. Got both bearings out. So now we're ready to just give this guy one more good cleaning, flushing, and mask it off and get it in primer. Same thing with this guy. Now I want to work on the welding of this guy. Okay, so I'm getting ready to paint. I want to paint the supercharger housing, the snout, and the throttle body elbow. I figured that would be a good place to start. So you saw me pull the bearings out for the supercharger rotors already, but then I got to thinking, well, I sandblasted this, and the bypass shaft could possibly get some sand in there, so I decided to take it all apart. And it's basically just two screws. There's two Phillips head screws. And you can see that the bypass valve actually slides through the shaft. So you take the screws out and then you just push the butterfly off, and then you just pull the shaft out. And there's two needle bearings in there. There's one that's kind of flush, that's here, and then there's one that's more, and that's a through bearing. And this one is a recessed one that has an end cap. So really, what I think you're supposed to do is take like a long 1/4 inch extension and go through this bearing, and you can probably tap that bearing out, and that bearing had a bottom to it, and you can kind of see how mangled it got. You know, I ended up just having to use the brute force method, and I used a sharp screwdriver and kind of peeled the bearing away. I couldn't really think of a better way to get them out. I just destroyed them. But I was going to replace them anyway. I got them on order. They're $25 delivered to the house. So I just kind of peeled them out of there. So now I just want to go in. You can see there's the little needles and the cage. Couple. Not my best work, but I got them out, and now I'm just going to go in there with that's a 14 millimeter bore and a 10 millimeter ID bearing, 10 millimeter shaft. So I'm just going to go in there with a piece of sandpaper and just polish up that bore just a little, and then I'm going to then what I did is I took the PCV valve out, just for the same reason, in case there's any sand trapped in there or anything. I want to just flush this thing all out. So it's two 10 millimeter bolts. And then this cap, there's a gasket, and then a spring, and then it's actually just a PCV valve from a car, and then there's just like plastic retainer thing. So I'm just gonna put those in my bag of parts. So now we're gonna wash, basically. I want to scrub all this down with just hot soapy water and then blow dry it off. All right, so as you can see, I got some painting done. I think the last scenes that I did was me sandblasting and prepping for paint, but I kind of skipped all the painting work. I feel a little sick this weekend, so that's why I sound like that. I'm sick all Memorial Day weekend. But anyway, I painted them with the Duplicolor dark Ford blue. So I got the rotor pack, the housing, the snout, throttle body, and this is kind of just an overhead view of what I'm about to do today. So I guess we'll start at the front. So I ordered a ZZ Performance modular pulley system. So it comes with this press-on hub, 5 bolts, and then I went with a 3.4 inch pulley. We'll go over why in a minute, but I basically I precisely measured the crankshaft pulley diameter, and it's 7.5 inches, actually within like less than 1/1000th of an inch. So GM did a really good job at that. So 7.5 inch, and then this one is 3.4. So
we'll talk about that ratio. I bought a rebuild kit, so I got new oil. It actually comes with a little filler, a little syringe to fill the oil, some gasket maker to go on the faces. And notice it's anaerobic, so that means that it'll dry in the absence of air. The rebuild kit also came with a new seal retainer, a new seal bearings. It actually came with a new fill plug and O-ring. And then here's the drive and coupler. And then what else do I got? I got new bearings. Here's my new bearings for the Supercharger. Here's my new bearings for the bypass shaft. And you can see that this one is a through bearing, but this one has like an end cap on it. So we just got to make sure we put that one in the right spot. And then here's this came out really nice. I liked how it came out. I masked everything off nice, and you can see. So there's the throttle body elbow. Here's just a couple of the PCV valve hoses I pulled off. I think we're just going to have to run. I tapped these ports with 1/8 inch NPT, so I think we're just going to have to maybe trim one end off and run that to wherever it went on the car, and then put a brass nipple or something. Here's the EGR valve adapter. Here's the 2 bolts. We got the helicoils in there, as you can see, 5/16 18. And then here's the metric bolts that I was telling you about, that I just turned the ODs off a little bit so they would fit in the adapter block nice. Okay. I forgot I sandblasted this PCV valve cover, and I didn't paint it, so got to get the old gasket off, and that's okay. I'll paint my little mount for the bypass. I'll just paint those black probably. Here's the adapter plate. As you can see, I kind of trimmed it up a little bit more, but I made a little. This is one of the hold downs for fuel rail, and here's the bolts for the other fuel rail. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So I think my first step is I got to go use a press. You have to use a shop press to assemble this. So I want to get the snout installed. Sorry, the snout reassembled. Actually, it would go like this, wouldn't it? That looks better. I bet you that was bothering somebody. But anyway, yeah, maybe I should. There, now we'll take a shot of it like that. That looks better. So let me get this started. Let me start getting this put back together. So I just got back from the shop. I assembled the snout. So here it is. Everything went together real nice. There it is with the ZZP hub and pulley on there. I even got our little plastic cap that just kind of screws in there. There's our new coupler. So I think we're ready to go here. It spins real nice. So now what I'm getting ready to do is just put it together. I've got the 2 bearings. I pressed those in. And then I've got the 2 little bearings for the bypass shaft. So there's the one with the end cap, and then here's the bypass shaft installed in there. So everything works good and looks good. So yeah, now we're gonna put the gasket maker on and assemble the Supercharger. All right, so I've got the Supercharger getting assembled. Now, I got to find the bolts for this. They're probably in this bag, but I want to show you something else real quick. Hang on. All right, I've got it all back together, fully assembled. And I just kind of wanted to show you, here's the one off the 2000, and here's the one that we rebuilt off the 01. Got our snout all assembled, got the rotors back in it, everything, got our gaskets. So I think this is pretty good. Now I have to go to the store and I have to get some gasket paper because we have a few gaskets to make. So let me go do that. But then I kind of just wanted to show you how it turned out. Everything looks good. And there's our 3.4-inch pulley versus the 3.8-inch pulley. You can see it's a little bit smaller, but we're also driving it faster because remember we have a 7.5-inch drive pulley, whereas the Pontiac only had about a 7-inch drive pulley. So we have a combination of a larger drive pulley and a smaller driven pulley. So we are spinning faster than the Pontiac would have been spinning. So we can talk about that. Yeah, so here's just a shot of the underside. You can see how we got our rotors back in, and here's our bypass working. So I think we're getting there. First assembly step is done. So now there's a couple more things to touch up. I have to fix. Oh, here it is right here. I made this little block. So this is going to go on the fuel rail mount. So we got this little guy here, but now I need to drill this one for our other fuel rail. So I just maybe wanted to do maybe like a before and after. So this one is untouched off the car as it comes on a Pontiac, and you can see how we had to mill off this chunk. I have an idea for the alternator where I don't really think I needed to mill this out, but I definitely needed to mill this out. And then you can kind of see how our silencing ports are filled in, and we modified the back end. So just thought that was a neat shot. That one spins nice. This one spins a little tighter because it's got a brand new seal in it, but it's okay. And plus this one still has oil in it. This one's still nice and lubed up. This one's completely dry. So I just want to maybe let that sealant dry before I go ahead and put the oil in. Plus this stuff is, I don't know how it smells new, but well, I'm sick, so maybe now's a good time to put it in because I can't smell. But anyway, let's just keep tinkering around here. I just wanted to go over the pulley size one more time and why I chose a 3.4-inch pulley. So if you remember in part 1, I ran through the math just on a piece of paper, but here I have an Excel sheet. So basically, the Supercharger is an Eaton M90. I think it's a Gen 3. This is a 2001 Pontiac Grand Prix GTP. So that was a 3800 motor, so 3.8 liters. That translates to 231.89 cubic inches. And I'm dividing it by 2 because it takes 2 crankshaft revolutions to displace the complete engine displacement, because a 4-cycle engine requires 2 crankshaft revolutions to displace, to complete all 4 cycles. So really, I'm doing that because this supercharger is rated per revolution of this pulley. So I kind of just want to get everything on the same. We're comparing apples to apples. I want to know what do I need to do per revolution of this. So basically, every revolution of the crankshaft is displacing this many cubic inches. So in order to meet 3.8 liters of displacement, just to displace 3.8 liters of displacement, this supercharger needs to spin basically 1.29 times faster than the crankshaft. Running that over on the Crown Vic, we have 4.6 liters. That's 280.71 cubic inches. Divide that by 2. So just to get it to meet 4.6 liters, obviously, see, it has to go faster. It's got to go 1.56 times as fast. On the Pontiac, I measured with a tape measure, as well as my research on some of the Pontiac forums is saying 6.94. 7 inches, so basically we'll just say 7 inches is what the crank pulley is on a Pontiac, and we know that the supercharger pulley on the stock Pontiac is 3.8. So that ratio, basically, to get the ratio, you're just dividing, 7 divided by 3.8. So this is the stock General Motors ratio, 1.84. So then I took that number and I said, okay, basically I'm dividing 1.84 by 1.29. Or another way of saying that is basically it has to go 1.29 times as fast just to meet 3.8 liters, but it's actually going 1.43 times as fast to build boost. You know, because you need to make boost, so you're going to need to spin faster than just 3.8 liters. Okay, so let's just assume that this supercharger outputs a linear boost curve. It probably doesn't, but just to get us in the ballpark and just to get us a good place to start, I'm going to assume that we want this 1.43, basically this number, to be the same on the Ford. So my supercharger pulley isn't my crankshaft pulley isn't 7 inches. It's actually 7.5. So that's going. I need to use that number. This is the pulley I chose, and I'll explain that in a second. So basically, what I'm and that number is the ratio I ran. So I'm going to explain that in a minute. But basically, if I take this number, I'm saying, okay, I need to multiply these two numbers together, because I want to know, okay, what is 1.56 times 1.43. So I want this number to be 43% higher, essentially, you know. And here's my 43% right here. So that's getting me a ratio of 2.23. So I want to find or size a pulley that's going to give me a 2.23 ratio, which really would be, to get me perfectly 2.23, I would need a 3.36 inch diameter pulley, but they only come in 0.1 inch increments. So I chose to be a little bit more conservative. I could have either gone with a 3.3 or a 3.4. I chose to be a little bit conservative. I can always drop down to a 3.3 if I need, but since there is no 3.36 pulley, I just chose the 3.4 inch. So let's just run through that. Let's say we were gonna run it on a 5.0. Let's say we're gonna run it on a push rod 302 like on a Mustang. That would be your numbers. You know, it's gonna have to spin 1.7 times as fast. If we were to run the exact same supercharger pulley, a 7.5 inch one, basically our ratio is going to have to be 2.42, which means I would need a 3.09 inch pulley. So in that instance, I would run a 3.1 inch. But since we're not running a 5.0, we're running a 4.6, and plus you guys are going to say, well, can it even support that much, you know, displacement? Well, and that's where we're going to drift off on the whole point of the conversation here. But we are running a 4.6 liter engine. We're not running a 5.0. That was just an example. So you can ignore that column if you want. But basically, the ratio I am running is 2.21. The ratio my calculations tell me I need to run is 2.23. So you can see that I'm a little bit slower. So a little bit slower than my calculations. So that means I'm a little bit more conservative, which I think is fine. So this is basically my rationale for choosing to run a 3.4 inch pulley. And kind of like I said before, our drive pulley is a little bit bigger than the stock Pontiac, so it's already going to be spinning the supercharger faster, even if we left it alone, even if we just left it at a 3.8 inch. But then we made this pulley a little bit smaller too, so that's actually, we're getting double speed. You know, we're driving it faster, plus the pulley is smaller, so it's being driven faster. So that's basically my calculation sheet and why I did this the way I did it. And I can always just, you know, change out this pulley. I got the modular hub on there now, so I can always change if I need to. So, and I have to maybe get a little bit of spacer because they're not in the perfectly same plane. So I'll probably just run a couple washers or something like that. No big deal. Okay, so that's basically the alternator reinforcement. You can see what I've done here. This is how we're going to hold down the fuel rail on the passenger side. On the back, we've got, I'm not sure if I showed you this, sorry, but this is a 1/2 inch thick spacer I machined up. So that's nice. And then on the front, I basically just put a nut and a bolt and this strip that's holding it down. So that's good. Now on the driver's side, we've got the spacer, but back here we got to do something. So I've got this strip. So I got lazy at the machine shop. I just found some scrap aluminum plate, and there I machined it down to, I think it was 3/16 or something, but here I left it a little bit thicker because we're spanning a larger distance. So I need to just get this strip drilled and trimmed to get us there, and then we're probably going to run a hose over here. So I'll probably cut this, and then I'll get my my fuel hose, 1/4 inch ID fuel injection line. I'll probably just run 2 clamps and just go over there. Okay, so let's get that done.
Okay, so I just wanted to show you, I didn't film me doing it, but there it is. So that's the bung I welded in for the wideband. So this is the outside outboard of the passenger side. See, here's the starter. So I decided to put it there because that's where it seemed to have the most clearance. It's going to basically go right above the frame rail. Hard to see, hard to show it to you, but maybe I'll show it to you on top. But here's the frame, and you can see it'll just kind of stick out right above the frame. I tried doing it on the driver's side. Let me try and show you that. Yeah. But on the driver's side, there just isn't enough length. You see, on the driver's side, they put the upstream sensor on the manifold. You can see it. You can see it right there. See, there's the upstream one. There just isn't enough room, so don't even bother trying. You know, you should really mount these before the cats. Upstream of the cat. So this is the cat right here. You know, so that's why they're putting the upstreams, which control engine parameters. The downstreams, all those are really doing is just making sure your cats are working. See, there's the downstream on the passenger side. There's the upstream on the passenger side, and then I just have the bung. There's no wideband in it yet, but the bung is right there. And then I highly recommend you use those are brass nuts. During the 5-speed swap, I put brass nuts on, and they came right off. You know, no problems. And I put some more NICs on. So there's the wideband, where I'm going to mount the wideband. Okay, so in the interest of saving money, I decided to rebuild the alternator that came with the parts engine. So this alternator basically was free to me. 130 amp alternator off an 04 Grand Marquis / Crown Vic. So what I did is I took it all apart, and I sandblasted the housing and the back cover. I also cleaned up and washed and scrubbed out the rotor. I polished up the 2 little contacts with a piece of steel wool. This stator assembly was kind of corroded inside of here, so I used some heat and some penetrating oil, and I was able to get it out. So and then I also knocked out the bearing and the bearing that was on the shaft. So here's the old parts, the old bearings and the old voltage regulator. And I ordered just a rebuild kit. It was $27 for 2 new bearings and a new regulator. So my goal today is to put it back together. I also sandblasted the pulley, and these are just the 2 braces that I ended up getting. I cleaned them up just a little bit and painted them with a gloss black engine paint. Same thing with the pulley and the nut. And here's the washer for the nut and the hardware and stuff. So I just want to get this put back together, and I'm going to try, and normally the bolt, the output stud, faces up. I'm gonna try and clock it 120 degrees to the passenger side of the car, so that way this won't be directly underneath the supercharger snout. So let me work on that a little bit. All right, so here it is. I got it back together, and we clocked it, 120 degrees to the right. So that should clear the top of our supercharger. It looks kind of neat. And then I also bought this 4G to 6G conversion harness. I think it was maybe like $30, but that end plugs into the alternator, and the black plugs into the car. So let's go throw it on the car and see if it works. All right, so there's the police one removed. Here it is installed. Just mocked up. That's the brackets are different between the 04 and the 2010, so I only have 2 bolts in. But there's our harness. I got the battery hooked up. This is my little gauge. So right now it tells me I've got 12.2 volts. Let's fire it up. So it's charging. It says 13 point. 13 and a half. So it's working. So I just want to do a couple last things here. So I need to get a belt. So what I've done here is I just have a length of Serpentine belt like I was talking about before. I installed it around the tensioner, the drive, and the supercharger pulley. And then I just marked with a Sharpie where, I don't know if you can see that, but right there. So it looks like we're at about 53.5 inches. And that's with the tensioner totally tensioned, I'll say. So I want the belt a little smaller than that. So I'm gonna shoot for 52.5. I'll take an inch off. I think that'll be a good place to start. So I think the part number for that would be 525K6. So I'm gonna, 525 would be 52.5. K I think is ribbed, 6 is 6 ribbed. I think is how that would work. So I'm gonna look up a 525K6 belt and see if I can get one of those. And I'm about to go to the machine shop. There's two more things I want to, well, one more thing I got to do. I'm going to put, I think right here, I'm going to put my temp sensor, and then I'm going to put right here, I think I'm going to put the boost port. So let me get that done, but I just wanted to, it looks good. Looks good. Almost there. Okay. I'm just worried about this little thing, but we'll worry about that later. Okay, so now I'm in the car and I'm preparing for installation of the supercharger. So there's a couple things I wanted to get done on the car before I actually put the supercharger on, just to collect some baseline data. So in a few clips before, you saw me installing the wideband bung. I've got the wideband gauge here. So the wideband's on the left, and then I've got a boost gauge that I picked up. I was hoping to find one that didn't go quite so high. It was maybe like a 0 to 15, because I'm only hoping for about, actually right where it is now, about 6 psi. But you can see it comes with this little shipping plug, so I got to remove that. And then just a water temp gauge, just since I'm going to be changing intake manifolds and stuff, and since I have an available port, well, why not? So now what I've got is I've got it was raining out, but now it's not. But I've got my car came with this like fiberglass like tube, so I've got some, that's kind of like my main firewall pass through. So I've got the wideband wire loom, and then I've got the blue is my water temp, and then the clear is the boost line. So I've routed them all the way up through. So now my next steps is really finding a place to mount this, and I don't know, I'm thinking somewhere's around here. So that's kind of my next step. So what I did is I tied in switched power. This is my cruise control switch. So I know this is just switched power in, so that when the key is on, the bottom pin has 12 volts. So I kind of tied into that. There's the red wire is this red wire. So this will be power for the gauges. Then I ran a ground wire down to just a screw on the body, and then for the lights on the gauges, I've got this yellow wire, and that's going to the radio. So where this paper clip is, I should take that out now. But so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this gauge cluster, and I'm basically just going to make kind of like a daisy chains pigtail of power in, ground for the bulbs, and power in for the bulbs. So let me get that done. But I also want to find a place to put it. I might have to drill or take this bezel out or something like that. So let me think about that for a few minutes. Okay, so I got everything done that I wanted to get done today, except for one thing. So you can see our 3 gauges are installed. I had to make this little bracket just because the dash kind of curves, and just so it looked a little bit better. I mean, it's not my best work, but it's fine. So I got the wideband installed, boost gauges hooked up, and I have the water gauge. Everything's hooked up except for the actual sending unit, because we're going to wait to hook the sending unit up till we get the aluminum intake in. So this is the wideband sensor that I installed. Anyway, I'll show you. So I don't know if you can see. Oh, there you go. You can see the wideband. It's right there. So there's the wideband, and then the wiring for it goes up, and then it goes down into the firewall. Here's the boost gauge plumbing. I just want to. It's hooked up, but just temporarily. I'm going to do a nice job when I put the supercharger on. And here's just a length of wire for the water temp, which probably which would go here on the real deal. So the only other thing that I wanted to do was, as you can see, I've got the 4G alternator on, but here's the 6G plug, and then I have this conversion harness, but as you can see, the middle wire is missing. So the battery light is on the car. I'm getting about 13 volts, which is pretty much exactly what I got on this conversion when I did it on the Mustang. Check it out if you're interested. I did a 3G to 4G conversion on a 95 Mustang. So what I'm thinking about doing is just abandoning this nice adapter harness, clipping off this, and just soldering in just a 4G connector. That way it'll have the middle wire. I'm thinking that it's missing the signal from the ECU. But let me start it up for you, and you can see. So we'll just turn it to on. So our O2 sensor is heating up. You hear that noise? It's so annoying. But anyway, we'll fire up the car. So the goal of this is I want to drive around, and I want to see basically our vacuum levels, which just to establish a baseline, and then also what kind of air-fuel ratios are we getting around town, on the highway, under heavy acceleration, and things like that. So engine is cold right now, which is why it's probably a little rich, but I want to just kind of monitor. There it goes. It's starting to lean out a little bit, but I just kind of wanted to see what our stock air-fuel ratios are. So I would expect that this isn't going to vary very much, because this is they're controlled by fairly narrow band sensors, I would think. So let me just pulse the gas a little. Everything's responding, and you can see we got nice good vacuum too, almost 20 inches. So we got a good healthy engine. And the only other thing I want to do in this video is that middle wire. So here's the here's the part number of the 4G connector, and you can see it's got 3 wires. So let me get that installed. All right, so we're at 14.2 volts, and as you can see, I kind of redid the harness. I just tapped into the middle wire for the ECU, and now we've got all 3 wires hooked up. Our little battery gauge down here, it's telling me 14, which is what it said before, and we've got no more battery light. And then we're running at idle, a little lean. But I think Ford's got it that way for a fuel economy. But I want to take the car for a ride now, just to make sure that there's no that the battery light stays out. All right. Yeah, so I just took it for a ride. The battery light stayed out. We got nice 14 volts, 13.9. even with the air conditioning on. So there's 14. So yeah. So I was worried about it, but I guess it can be done. You can go backwards. I knew you could go forward in time. You could go from a 4G to a 6G, but you can also go from a 6G to a 4G. So now we've got a 130 amp junkyard rebuilt alternator, so that's good enough for me. I rebuilt it for 30 bucks, so I think we're getting ready to close up this video here. Hang on. All right, so I think we're done with fabrication. I took the alternator back off and I put it on just so I could show you how it looks, and I got my alternator braces on there on both sides. I got the belt, and you can see how the tensioner is working. So then you can see how I kind of got the other belt back there. I got some vice grips to simulate the AC compressor. I got the new thermostat housing. I painted that up. You can see our fuel rails are on. Here's the other part that I made for the fuel rail mount. I had to make this secondary EGR spacer block because, as you can see, it would have hit right there. So that's a 1 1/8 inch thick block. You can see I've got the port. That's a 3/8 NPT port for the temp sensor. Is going to go right there, and down in there is a 1/8 NPT for the boost. You can see that I've got the EGR hose is now got to be totally redone, but you can see kind of what needs to happen. This end has to connect to there, but I want to wait till that's on the car to kind of, just so I know it's going to clear everything on the firewall and whatnot, so I can kind of custom make my own EGR tube. So, yeah, I mean, fabrication is done. I think it turned out real nice. It looks good. So that's what we're going to cover in the next video. So the next video is going to be installation, which is probably what everybody's been waiting for. But fabrication is done. So yeah, stay tuned for part 7, and that'll be the last, I think, the last video on the series here. So I appreciate everybody watching, and it's a lot of work. These last few things have been just kind of nickel and diming me. Here's where the temp sensor is going to go. But this plug is for the other side, down in there. There's a port right there. I gotta put that in there. And then I've got some fuel line, and then I also got 3/8 hose just to connect. Even though these are blocked off, I'm just gonna loop that together just to be sure. So I think that's everything. So yeah, I'm excited to put this thing on, see how it sounds. But yeah, it turned out good, I think. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one for installation on the car.